Hey, this is Kristen Howerton, and I blog at Rage Against the Minivan.
And I'm Elizabeth Esther from elizabethesther.com.
And you guys are watching Right Mom, Left Mom, a show where two moms coming from different perspectives talk about politics without clawing each other's eyes out.
So apparently we need it. What?
Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, apparently we need a new, apparently we need a new title for our show because I'm not right enough. And I think you're left, but I don't think I'm right enough for some people.
Yeah, so today we decided we would talk about the elephant in the room, being that a lot of commenters on our blogs have said that perhaps Elizabeth is not right enough. And a couple commenters have questioned if maybe I have chosen Elizabeth because I just wanted someone who would agree with me, or like I'm trying to maybe pull one over on by not having a real conservative represented. So, Elizabeth, what say you to these accusations?
My first thought is this is precisely why I webcast, because I think a lot of times the tendency in American politics, especially today, is to pigeonhole people and to narrowly define people. I thought it was interesting, one of the comments that I read, that someone had brought up the fact, if Elizabeth was listening to Dennis Prager, or if she was listening to Rush Limbaugh, or if she really knew how conservatives think, then she would be able to defend our position with a little more intellectual honesty. And the truth is, I have listened to those talk show hosts. I've read their books. I am very familiar with the conservative the conservative viewpoint as it is portrayed within a certain area of our media. And my thought is that I've listened to those, but I don't just spew the talking points. I've thought through a lot of the positions that I have, and I'm not defined by what a talk show host or what an author says conservatism is. And I don't think it's fair it wouldn't be fair for me to say Kristen isn't very left because of her position on maybe a couple of issues. I love that we are having this conversation and that there is overlap, because I believe there is a lot more overlap out there. It's just that those points of view aren't being given enough of a platform and enough of a voice. And I can just reassure you that it wasn't Kristen's idea to bring me in to make her look or add to her liberal credentials. We had this conversation together, and what are you thinking, Kristen? How do you feel that defining, or do you feel like we can let other people define for us what our political position is?
I agree with you. I think that people are just so accustomed to seeing polarized people and pundits, especially on TV, that it's confusing for people when we might agree on some things. I think that, thus far we've talked about some issues where maybe you are a little more center, and I think that there are other issues that we can discuss where people will find that I'm a lot more center. But I think both of us, what we definitely have in common is that we are both not a fan of the groupthink of political party lines, and I guess that's confusing for some people. So I guess I'll throw this question to you then. What do you think defines you as a conservative? How do you find yourself defining yourself as a conservative?
Well, for me, there is probably one issue that really defines me as a conservative, if only because there's one political party that has consistently backed up this issue for me, and it's the issue of being pro-life. And the Republican Party platform has always stated that they defend human life, and they believe that every human life has a right to life. And for me, that I actually wish that was part of the Democratic platform, because I think that a lot of what Democrats have brought to the table would actually benefit the pro-life position insofar as taking care of women and children, health services being available, those things that Democrats have traditionally gotten behind in terms of social services. That is something that I think actually benefits the pro-life position. And I wish that there was more of that either on the Republican side or there were more Democrats who were behind that. What is for you? What's one of your defining issues?
For me, the reason that I kind of define myself as liberal is I tend to agree with a more kind of European socialist model of government. I think that when I choose how I look at politics, I really take kind of global perspective and historical perspective and try to look at what has worked and hasn't worked in developed nations. And when I look currently at pretty much every developed nation in terms of a nation that I think the government is working well in, where there's not a whole lot of corruption. Well, relatively speaking, I know we have corruption in our government, but
I know what you're
nothing
saying.
like what I've seen in some developing countries. When I see what is working, it seems to me like most countries of our size, of our success, are offering a lot more to their citizens than we are in terms of, socialist programs. So I tend to be definitely more socialist than capitalist in the way that I want government to be run, which is why I consider myself liberal. But I'm guessing, there's got to be some other reasons that you are Republican other than the pro-life issue. Or is that just a single issue?
It's interesting because I really realize that I don't want to be defined by you, and yet on the other hand, I guess in a lot of ways I am defined by one issue. But for me, it encompasses so many other issues. So while that might be sort of my foundation, it also has ramifications across other issues. And I think I've discussed or mentioned before that also informs my position on the death penalty, which is not very Republican. However, there is one thing where there is another issue where I am more conservative, and I am more conservative when it comes to, I'm very pro small business, and I don't think that right now we are living in a climate that is hospitable to small business. In fact, there's a lot of, I can just say my husband is a small business owner. He has a small side business, and we are penalized for all kinds of stuff, and taxed for all kinds of stuff, which frankly makes it very, very difficult. Since he and I are the ones running the operation, it makes it very difficult on a day-to-day basis. And so for me, I do just tend to, small business is the backbone of the American economy, and we have to make it a hospitable environment for small businesses to thrive. And so that has sort of always been another issue where I guess I lean more conservative.
So for you, the Republican Party is more beneficial to small businesses?
Yeah, it's more small business. It's just more business friendly in general. Yeah.
Gotcha. So, how do we move forward? How do we move forward if, people are feeling like we're not arguing enough, we're agreeing too much? Because it sounds like we do agree on a lot of issues. Can we continue to have this discussion and hopefully prompt people to listen in, even if they don't agree with us on either end?
I think that's really a good question. I think that's the question that everyone probably has to ask themselves, because isn't that the bigger question of what's going on in America right now is, well, if we can't figure out a way to work together, does that mean we just go further, deeper and deeper into our own sides? The reality is I do want to have the dialogue, even if that means that we are not having a fierce debate and we're like totally polarized. The thing is we're also friends. So I think people need to understand that we're having this conversation as two moms who know each other in real life, who, are in the same geographical area. And so we have things in common. And, that I feel like if more people could have that conversation with real people in their geographical area, they're going to realize they're not going to be going after the other person because you know that person. I don't know. I feel that it could be something great to keep having the conversation. How do you feel?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, I really feel like in our society in general, in the media, but then also socially, I think we have a dearth of intelligent and non-emotionally reactive conversations about politics. So I feel like, as long as you and I are able to model that here somehow, because I do feel like, you and I are kind of the table with, I think, with some humility. I think not acting like we know all the answers.
Yeah.
I think trying to learn from each other and research and figure out what's going on. Then I think this conversation can be beneficial even if people don't agree with where we draw our conclusions from, because I think that it's still an interesting conversation. I think that people are welcome to comment and join in and have a robust debate in the comment section, as I've encouraged, as long as they're not being insulting, and if they can keep the same tone that we're trying to maintain, which is, this is what I think, and, instead of you're stupid.
Yeah. And you know what? Also, I would love to, if people feel that I am not informed enough on a conservative viewpoint, shoot me an email, leave a link to an article. I will read that. I will inform myself. I'm very interested in that. If someone wants to persuade me to be even more conservative, then go ahead, fire away. I am more than willing to consider that. And, and likewise, I mean, if there is something, that you are feeling, that you maybe need to even go more left on, I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, my hope is that people can continue to tune in if they're enjoying it, if politics is something that they like. And instead of this, you guys aren't liberal or right enough, let's just then just share your own opinion,
I mean, that just kind of closes the conversation.
Yeah.
you're not enough of this. Well, okay.
Yeah.
And now what?
Essentially, what I want to say is there are some of you that think that Elizabeth is not right enough, and we have heard you. Thank you for sharing and respect that opinion. But we just probably need to move on.
Right.
We're going to have these conversations because we're enjoying it. We hope that you guys.
We're having fun. That's
we
why
are
we're doing this.
Totally. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. But and like Elizabeth said, I mean, if if there are some folks, who are more conservative that feel like they're not representing, comment away, on where you're coming from. Because certainly in this series, we're way open to different opinions. So, yeah.
Yes.
All right, so I will leave it there for this week. We just wanted to kind of address some of the concerns we're seeing in the comment section. We hear you. I'm not dismissing that at all, but we still want to have this conversation and hope that you guys will join us as well. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.